Do you have thoughts of leaving corporate and maybe moving to the Caribbean, but the gravity of that move and chain really scares you, or you're just not sure of the steps? Stick around, let's have a chat. So leaving corporate was not easy, but choosing me was an easy decision and the best decision ever. So my days start with looking over my plan. If I'm able to get down to the beach, I can. That's if the water's not rough. Sometimes I go out for a walk, but most mornings after I've gone through my meditation and looked over what I need to do for the day, I do my TikTok live. After that, I've got things to do with family. I get my client calls in. I may have meetings lined up, and usually most days around early afternoon I can even get a nap in. Maybe it's the heat, but I chalk it down to finding peace. So if you've thought about moving to the Caribbean or having the freedom of living between the two, this is basically what I'm doing, and I call it bicoastal living. So for some people, the worry is, where do I go? For me, it was an easy choice. I've been coming to Grenada since the age of 3, so it's home for me. I went to school here from nursery, that's pre-primary school, primary school, secondary school, college, and I even started my career here before I decided to move back to the UK. So choosing Grenada as my destination for where I wanted to be, if not in the UK, was a no-brainer. What's it like being in the Caribbean and you're not born here? You do occasionally get reminded that you're not born here, and it kind of begs the question that if you don't belong to the Caribbean and you also don't belong, the bigger issue of not belonging in the UK, where do you actually belong? But that's for a whole other video. But the way I deal with it is, from a very early age, I considered myself, I found a quote somewhere that said, child of the nation, citizen of the world, and wherever I decide to call home is going to be home. And I feel grounded here, I feel at peace here. This is home. Here I build, here I grow, and if you have the same kind of idea, you can too. So if you're dreaming about a slower, more intentional pace of life, and you're thinking about somewhere like the Caribbean, but you're scared about what that leap might look like, you're not the only one. It's definitely not easy, but it is very fulfilling. But you don't have to do it alone. You do need a plan. You do need support that can come in the form of a coach, and having a community who understands and gets it will be invaluable. So there are 3 things that helped me make that transition from corporate into the freedom of living life on my own terms and on which side of the Atlantic I wanted to be. And the first one was to build my support system. The very first thing I did when I made up my mind and I knew that this was it, I needed to get out, was to call a coach. You can get anything done in life that you want to, but if you want to go quicker and if you want to go further, you do need the support of others who have gone before you or understand what the pitfalls are, who can hold you accountable and who can guide you through it. So getting a coach for me was so important, because I probably would not have moved at the pace. I definitely would not have moved at the pace that I did in order to get out. And those coaches helped me put together a plan. And that was number 2. You need to get a plan together. This is not a vacation. It's not just a simple trip that you're planning. This is a whole change to your life. There is so much to think about when it comes to how do you survive after leaving corporate, that you do need the support and you do need a proper plan to help you stay focused as to what comes next. The third thing that really helped me was more in terms of where my mind was. I really had to redefine what success was, and I have mentioned this before. When you've got a particular job title, when you've got a particular level of respect based on the job that you're in, it can be really difficult to pivot into something that doesn't hold the same amount, or seemingly doesn't hold the same amount of respect that does. And I remember speaking to people about me wanting to leave my corporate job and going into business of my own and talking about what that business was. And the first response that I got from many of those people is, why would you want to leave your good job, that's the way they would say, your good job, and go it alone? The security, and they're looking at the prestige, because they can no longer say, oh, my friend works as blah blah blah. And you will get that from your parents, you might get that from your spouse, you'll get that from your friends. There are so many people who speak about you in terms based on what your job is, and then we base our identity based on what our job is. And it can be really difficult to think that you're moving away from that identity that has been yours for so long. When people ask, how are you doing? The next question that they ask is, what do you do? And so that is ingrained in who you are. And to think that you're going to park that to the side, whatever your position, your title was, the respect that comes with it, you're going to park that to the side and go and forge your own path is not always easy. So you have to look at, what does success look like for me, rather than what success looks like when using the yardstick of other people or society's yardstick. Where you choose to live is not going to be the big thing when it comes to moving from corporate into your own life. But what's going to make the difference for you is how you choose to live. That's where fulfillment and purpose comes from. So if the Caribbean or your version of freedom is calling you and you are done waiting for permission, take this as your sign that you are ready and it is time for you to put your plan in motion. And so for many years, even before I was able to get out of my corporate space, I was helping other overwhelmed professionals to move out of corporate spaces, get out of that grind and move into successful businesses of their own. And now I continue to help people to build a life that is rooted in peace, purpose, and palm trees. So if that's you and you are ready to get started on your freedom plan, comment freedom below or find the link in the description and let's get started on your freedom plan. But if you've got any questions on what the transition from corporate into a life of freedom looks like, or what it actually means or looks like everyday life transition into the Caribbean, feel free to ask your questions. And if you want to find out a little bit more about how I had to change my mindset in order to do the things I needed to do in order to make the transition, then have a look at this video where I speak about the things that I had to unlearn in order to leave my 9 to 5. So thank you for watching and I'll see you in the next video. Bye.